I assume, okay, I believe we're online. So I'm going to just go ahead and jump right in because I know that you can back this up. 1 second. Okay, so this is a flat earth map. I'm sure that you've probably seen them online if you've looked into the subject at all, but this is probably the best representation that you're going to find of where you live. And the thing that makes this really important is, so in all the ancient cultures it says, so this would be God looking down. Like if he was laying on the ground looking straight down, that's how he would see the earth. And it has a glass dome that comes up like this. So if it was on its side, you know, it would look like a snow globe. But if you do some research, you'll very quickly find one of the easiest ways. And standing in front of the map, it feels like it's the simplest way to prove this. The simplest way to prove it is Captain Cook and the other one, I believe Magellan, estimated the coastline of Antarctica to be 74,000 miles long. Now, you probably aren't in the habit of memorizing the distances around the Earth. Well, the equator, which is here, is supposed to be 24,800. So if that's 24,800 and this is 74,000, that's almost triple or triple. So the point is, it's a lot farther down here. It's a whole lot farther down here. So that's why you'll notice all the boats and the aircraft, military and otherwise, they avoid the southern hemisphere. And if you're going to go from someplace like the Philippines, the woman who got pregnant on the plane, you know, it makes sense to stop in Alaska because you fly right over going to LA. But, you know, the way the globe looks, it looks like it would be easier to stop over here in Hawaii. But things don't make sense on a globe. And that's really the key thing. So if you can, once you can prove these things, then it definitely brings you to the point of, well, that means there's a creator. Because this is a design that you can see. It's Tesla's model. It's what Tesla was talking about. It's why the importance of 3, 6, and 9. So these things may seem not connected, but they are. And in the end, you have a working model that some intelligent being created. And, well, how many choices are there? You know, there's really one battle. There's always been one evil guy and one good guy. You know, the great spirit or the great deceiver, the evil being. You know, call him what you will. We don't have to give him a name. Our point is to rise above him, recognize we are created beings in the image of God dwelling here. And I think I'm going to cut this short now and see how...
We got 5, so keep going. Barbara wants to say hello. And
okay, well, hello, Barbara.
Talk about the 8 inches squared per mile. And
okay, so how are we going to prove? How can you prove that the Earth is flat? Well, first, you will feel very silly the first time you try to conduct a real flat Earth experiment. And to do one, there's easy ones that you can do, but for some reason, if you do one, at least for me, where you start to study what the curve is, you know, and you get familiar with the equation of 8 inches per mile squared. And what that means is this, for every mile, since you're squaring, because it's a circle, you know, that's what they say, it's a globe, you have to add more miles because there's more curvature. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Well, if that line is curved, it's farther. So, and it's exponentially farther because it's a circle. So it keeps going. Anyway, eventually you come back around to yourself. But there's 16 feet 6 inches of curvature at 5 miles. Did you know that? No, probably not. Well, if you get a laser and a telescope, 2 people, go to the ocean and use your little altimeter, make sure that you're right there at sea level. And if you can look at your target, which should be your friend on the cell phone, and they're 5 miles away at the ocean, and you can still see them, well, unless they're 16 feet tall, you shouldn't be able to see them. And if the ocean isn't curved, because there's all these nonsense answers to keep you in this loop of the truth, and that's why you have to go out and measure it. Get familiar with the equation, check the math. Be a person who, like the Bible says, you check all things. So that's important. Questions?
No, this is great. So they're saying they want to learn about the flat Earth, so they talk about the moon, what the moon, like the size of the moon.
Yeah.
666, how the beast has implemented his self into NASA. Remember?
Well, and so if you are the devil, what are you going to do? If Hitler was the devil, you know, I mean, you can't trust history because his story, that's what history is. And if you're the devil, though, you're just going to move through whatever power is in power. When Egypt fell, you move into Greece. When Greece fell, you move into Rome. That's how it works. So they are able to adapt as they learn because they have to do things through us, which is why they've made the deal with these elites. And but getting back to the flat Earth and all these things, I'm trying to stay on task here.
Christian Watchman has a question. He says, will you also explain about the planes and the ships?
The planes and the ships. Yeah, so you can actually Google while you're looking at this. I believe it's the 1943 map for naval and commercial seafaring traffic or something like that. And they'll show you a map like this, and they'll show you the shipping lanes relative to this map. And so the answer to that is this mileage on a flat Earth is very different from what it is on a globe. And this is the mileage that checks out. This is the time and the travel distance that checks out. So that's why,
The pregnant woman, remember?
Yes, and that's what I said earlier in the video, is you can Google woman from the Philippines, I believe, on the way to LA, gets pregnant, make an emergency landing. I believe it's Anchorage. And I think, so use those search terms, it'll pop up on YouTube while we're here. And if you look at it on a globe, and the guy does a really good job of explaining it in this video, but if you look at it on a globe, it looks like you would go right over Hawaii, right straight to LA. But in fact, on this flat Earth map, you go straight over Anchorage on your way to, I think the Philippines are somewhere in that line. Light isn't very good, so it's hard to read. But this route, as you can clearly see, goes over Anchorage. So it makes sense on a flat Earth map. And guys, is who's right and who's wrong? You can get into it all day long, but go measure it and then start looking at the Bible. Job 37:18. Who's right? NASA or the Bible? The Bible says, Job 37:18, the sky is firm, hard, unbreakable. It's like it has a look of cast bronze as if in the furnace. It sounds pretty hard. And if it's a footstool, it is. If it's a flat earth with a dome and God is dwelling above the north, he's the God of the north, he dwells above the north. The Aurora Borealis is the energy of God. That's what charges this whole thing. The Aurora Borealis. Yes, the Aurora Borealis is the center where the energy flows down, which happens to be green, which happens to be the color of God, the energy of love, the color of love. And so that flows down into this glass thing. And the sun and the moon, exactly the same size, both of around 3,000 to 3,500 miles up. It changes because they move relative to your distance, and you can check those things too with a photo, time of day, AutoCAD, and GPS location. These are all experiments that you can drive yourself crazy with. Maybe a little. And I did. But they check out. And this is how you know, no matter what the demons tell you, through what agency or what astrophysic, Hawking, expert, wheelchair, reminds me of Star Trek bullshit, that they were programming you before they were programming you. You remember Stephen Hawking guy? Well, if you were a Star Trek guy, that's who they're going after. They're going after the Star Trek guy who knows that Hawking is really the guy in the wheelchair who beeped twice for yes or twice for no and once for yes. It's all programming. On Werner von Braun's tombstone is Psalms. Oh, I forget. Somebody look that up. Werner von Braun's tombstone, it's pretty much a scripture. This is the guy who made the rocket that went to the moon, the Apollo astronauts.
Psalms 19:1.
Psalms 19:1. And this is an Apollo astronaut, Freemason, to the elite, probably a Satanist, but in the end he cracked. And he said, what is it?
The heavens, like talking about the Psalms 19:1,
mhm.
The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night
Right.
sheweth
The
knowledge.
firmament showeth his handiwork, because he built the rockets for Operation Dominic and Operation Fishbowl, where they actually tried to crack the dome with nuclear devices in the 50s. That's what they were doing. This is 10 years worth of where does the big flat earth lie lead you, and you can prove it because you know what they're trying to hide. Okay, so, but that's why they want to hide it, because they're trying to hide God. That makes their nonsense Big Bang, CERN, particle collider, that's all nonsense. They're not looking for God, they're looking for their God. And CERN is the machine that's going to bring their God in, the Antichrist.
talk about the moon. How far is
Okay.
the moon from the numbers, and how Satan is implemented himself.
Yeah, now I'm a little
That's
rusty on
crazy.
some of these numbers, but I believe one of them, if the miles of curvature, if you look at that, you can see the Freemasonic occult programming in that. Because it's at 100 miles, you have 666 feet of curvature. At 10 miles, you have 66 feet 6 inches. Guess what you have at 1,000? 666. I mean, it's in bed because it's a lie. Do you understand? That's why they put it in there. It's the deception. It's the lie. So if it's in part of the information about the lie, it reinforces how you receive the programming of the lie, because they're using occult power and spelling, casting spells. Hollywood is the holly stick. It's what the witch's wand is made out of. That's why it's called Hollywood. They program you with Hollywood sticks. And they're programming you with these numbers that your brain records in a way that they understand and you don't. And Hitler started to figure all these things out, and then they figured out that fluoride was one of the delivery systems. And I found this all because my kid got sick with cancer, and I did everything right. I gave him all the immunizations and that, and then started finding out just how sick that makes them and what they're really designed for, and how it is a premeditated delivery system for public education and any medicines that you will encounter that are going to pretty much guarantee that you are going to be a robot zombie. But the light and power of God is stronger than that. And so it gets through. And you want to know, why'd your kid die? Why did he get sick? How come these people are profiting off of this sickness and everything that I can't make sense of? It's because it's not a system.
Amber asked, she said she's so confused.
Okay.
You said Hollywood stocks?
Yeah, no, Hollywood sticks. So I'm sorry. I do have other videos on all this stuff. And so if you follow the channel, I'm assuming that you've seen this. And I have talked about it. Hollywood why is it called Hollywood? Anyone? Because Hollywood comes from a holly tree. They cut down the holly tree, they take the wood, and a witch historically used the holly tree because it had some special characteristics that gave, similar to a divining rod that they use for looking for water. They look for a certain stick. The Hollywood tree is supposedly more powerful in casting spells. That's why it's called Hollywood, because Hollywood is how they dispense their programming. And so they put that little Hollywood stick right in your face, and most people don't know what it means.
Right, it's the fire.
Did I answer?
Yeah, I mean, she said she's still confused. Where did witches come into this? Laugh out loud. So I think she might have come in late.
Okay, and so there's probably a little bit of that. I think this is a little fuzzy. I'm going to wipe this lens really quickly. Okay. No, it's just the lighting's kind of low. It's very overcast, which is usually really bright in here because we've got no sun. So, questions, and then I hate it when these things go too long.
So yeah, they used to be holy, but now everything they do is evil. So yeah, talking about Satan and how he implemented the flat earth. About the globes, talk about the globes, how many globes.
Oh yeah, those are the other things that you start looking at the history of where did the globe come from. 400 years ago, somebody paid to distribute 16 million globes. You couldn't prove it was a globe then. You couldn't prove it was a globe until you sent a rocket up to look down. All before that, they couldn't get a balloon up high enough. They couldn't get anything up high enough. So there was no way to sort of sell their nonsense until they could get someplace where they could do that. So
they put it into the education system.
Yeah, so they put it in the education system. And if you look at any movie, any school, that's why there's a globe in every classroom, because you're 3 years old visiting your 4-year-old brother's school with your mom, and you're seeing that globe. This is where I'm going to go and learn, and it's just there. It's one of those assumed things. It's what I alluded to the other day, what made me kind of come up with an understanding of why they take the cross and they turn it upside down. If the cross is not a holy icon, but in fact a Babylonian sex worship image, well then why would they bother to turn it upside down? Because then they have you assuming that the cross is a holy image, that the cross is something that should be respected as from God, but it's not. It's not from God. The cross is a bad thing.
Staros.
Yeah, staros. It's from the Greek word staros. The Greek impaled their prisoners on an upright tree stake or pole. The cross is actually a vagina. It's like a donut. Think of a donut turned sideways. That's the vagina, and then the cross is the penis that goes up through it. It's from Babylon. It's sex worship and Baal, and they got you thinking that the cross is a holy thing. And that's an important detail to know what the instrument of death was with your Savior. So that's why those things are important. Research them, research flat Earth.
So yeah, we've got some shills in here, but that's okay.
Okay.
And so, but we need to keep going about the flat Earth. Go tell them how to measure it.
Yeah, so measure, and the easiest one, like I said, is to do the 8 inches per mile squared, and then just telescope, laser, but you can also go to the Bible if it's your authority, and you haven't done these experiments yet. You can find plenty of them online that Rob Skiba and some of these other guys have done, where they've clearly proven the point, almost beat it to death. And but take the rainbow, for example. How do you create a rainbow? Look at that. That proves the Earth is flat, because you need a mirror to create a rainbow. You know, you're out there with the hose, you're spraying it in the light, you see the mirror, or you see the rainbow. You have to have a mirror to create an artificial rainbow indoors without sunlight. Where is your mirror outdoors? That's the dome. And that is why the rainbow is in the shape of a dome, because you're looking at the mirror that is reflecting the light down that you're throwing the water in front of. So these are flat Earth proofs, but as I said, I do have plenty of videos to give you experiments that you can carry out and conduct yourself, because it's your job. It's the red pill, blue pill of the Matrix. You have to do it yourself. You have to see it. If you don't see it with your own eyes, that programming is so powerful.
Is asking you, where are you getting all this from? She's I think she's a little confused. She says none of these things are flat Earth proofs.
Okay. I'm sorry, then that is something you just need to consider the subject a little closer. Google, how do you create an artificial rainbow? I know it seems very simplistic, but it's very telling. And again, it goes back to who's right, God or NASA? So these are not things to be argued. Don't bother arguing with me. Argue with YouTube. There's plenty of evidence out there about if you conduct the experiment yourself, you can know the answer to these things yourself, and you don't have to go, hey, yell at me. You know, I'm the messenger, so don't blame me. I have done the homework. I have done the math. But honest, sincere questions.
That's what turned you into a Christian.
Yeah, that's I was a Christian, and then I was like, I didn't see. With the passing of my son, it was something that I felt like I was a good person, and that seemed harsh and what's the word that Trump used, disproportionate or something. And so I set out trying to comfort my grief by trying to learn, what did I miss? Is it some of these other religions and so forth? And after I found out that medicine was a joke, and it's an old joke, it goes back to Egypt. They've known about these plant medicines since Egypt, and it's been trying to keep the rest of us from it while they prolong their own lives. And because they're elite, and they want to run that thing out, that deal with the devil, as long as they can. But when I learned that medicine was a joke, and that a lot of these things can be cured, what else is a joke? And one of the guys who was doing similar work to me, kind of trying to understand these plant medicines, help other people understand these plant medicines. And he came to me one day, he said, hey, just like all this stuff, do your research. Here's how you do it. 8 inches per mile squared, go do an experiment. The Earth is flat. Tell me what you find. And that's how, and I didn't do anything with it for because I really respected this guy. I learned a lot from him. And so about 6-7 months later, I started looking into it, and it's like every other flat earther. If you Google, if you actually set out to prove any single experiment, like go out and do it, just go and do it. Stop arguing with people. Find your favorite one and go do it. And if you do it right, you'll find what everybody else does. And you go, oh, no way, it can't be flat. Oh, no, I can't be that dumb. Because that's what it comes down to. Like, you have to face that pill. Am I that dumb? Is everybody that dumb? It's not that you're that dumb. It's that they're that good. These are supernatural beings that have had the opportunity to witness the creation of man and have been around forever, and they know how to manipulate everything. Chemical compounds in our bodies and electromagnetic EMF waves from your smart meters in your home and your Wi-Fi and your cell phone that are all in this persistent range of frequency that interferes with your bioelectric battery that is your body. Why? Why couldn't they pick a different one? Because it's all on purpose. It's to wear you down, it's to wear you down, it's to wear you down. And this has gone longer, though, than I probably wanted this to go, and I think we should probably get some feedback on how it's gone. And
everyone's doing
just
great.
kind of evaluate. If there's no burning questions, then
Conspiracy
my
theories.
advice, because you can get sucked into this YouTube stuff. I mean, the whole point of this is important. Things like this are important, but so is your life and your peace to God and your ministry. These are the things that you focus on. The battles are going to come to your door, and this is what we're doing. We're just kind of sharing what's happening to us.
People are saying YouTube is not research.
Okay, well, but when I go out and actually physically do a field experiment, I'm sorry, and I apply the scientific method of it is repeatable, it is observable, and it is measurable, then that's the scientific method. You're right about YouTube. It's not. I can look at other people's, what they've done, but then I can go do what they did physically. And that's what most people are afraid of, because they don't get off their ass and get away from their computer because they're stuck with this thing.
So Barbara Brett said, why did people who used to believe in a flat earth believe we would fall off if we sailed too far?
That's I mean, I could go in all the technical details, but once you find out how bad they're laughing at you, let me tell you why they chose an edge, and why they show that ridiculous picture of the controlled opposition, which is the Flat Earth Society, shows this ridiculous picture of this floating flat earth in space. There is no space. There is no space. Space is fake. It is not real. It doesn't exist. It cannot physically exist. And that's a really deep hole for you to go down. And it took the grief of my son to push me down that hole, because I wanted to know who was responsible for this mess that led to my kid dying. Well, it turns out it's the very people who, the joke is on you, where is the edge? So that's your edge. It's a 300 to 500 to 50-foot wall of sheer ice. And it circles all the way around the outside. So there is an edge.
Talk about the peace treaty.
And the peace treaty with Antarctica. I mean, you can research all these things to death, guys, but the point is, do you believe the Bible? And that's what this is really about, because this isn't a flat earth debate. The earth is flat. It's measurable. If you don't know it, you're just get away from your computer and go measure the damn thing. And if you find something other than what I found, then I want to see the evidence for your, what measurements, where were you, what was your point, what's your subject, let's see your readings. I mean, this is real stuff. You got to apply real science if you want real answers. So, I'm sorry, but that's what it takes. So, in the interim, maybe as a Christian, what you do is you start looking at all these scriptures that describe what the earth actually is, which is like a footstool with floodgates, so the waters above can come in during like a flood, Noah's time. How did all that happen? What kept the waters out? How are there floodgates where there's no space? How did Psalm 19:1, Werner von Braun's tombstone, why did he choose that one? Because how is the firmament show the majesty of his creation if it's air? There's nothing there. The firmament itself is a glass dome. You know the word firmament from your grandmas and old movies. And firmament.
Elysium says a 24-hour sun in Antarctica refutes the idea of an ice wall.
Yeah, well, there is no 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And here, so let's look at some of the details of this standard map of the world, because they put in longitude and time calculator, which is relative to the sun. And then we have these little things down here which show the sun in the December solstice and then in the June solstice. And you can see where the sun casts its shadow and how far. And obviously on December it's farther, but you still see that there is darkness there, where there is not on the North Pole. It overlaps. That's why they get 24 hours. And let's go up here really quick. Patent allowed November 15th, 1892 in these 7 countries. And this new standard map of the world, which is patented in these 7 countries, is correct as it is. So how do you get something patented that is patently false? It's because it's true. And the mileage and all that, it holds up to scrutiny. You just haven't scrutinized it. So drop the programming. Imagine. So here's what's on the other side, the truth. And the truth, like they say, it will piss you off, but it will set you free. And free is a good thing. Because with this, you can physically understand how the Earth system that we live in works. The ocean is a huge saltwater battery. The moon is a diode. The sun is the anode. I can never remember
It's an electrical system. The green light of the Aurora Borealis that comes from the north charges the dome, ocean, the big saltwater battery, the moon balances the sun. The sun does stir the ocean and the moon depresses. I believe the moon lifts.
Moon lifts.
Yeah, moon lifts, sun depresses, and that's how it stirs. That's where the waves come from. It's not gravity. Gravity's fake. It's imaginary. There's no such thing as gravity. It is atmospheric pressure and buoyancy. And these are all things that you can do these at home in your kitchen sink with some experiments to prove them. And if you want to argue, find someone who cares to argue about something that's as ridiculous. Once you prove something is flat and you got people back there fighting about it, it's not going to serve you to stick around.
Ashiel, we should answer the question though.
Okay.
They said that the Bible, the firmament is the sky. And he brings up Genesis 1:20 says otherwise, and talk about the water, why the sky is blue. Talk about the sky, the split in the sky was over Peru and the Atacama Desert. It opens up, and that was where the waters flowed through.
the Great Rift. It's in all the ancient legends, and this is one. It's not really worth answering. If it's pretty
Genesis
elementary. You can
1:20.
come on. That's what you come with. At least something.
He says open firmament of heaven, and then go ahead and tell Barbara. Tell her to look up her numbers in Strong's Concordance, Bible Wheel, and all that stuff.
Yeah, Barbara, and to everybody, it is really important that the way numbers are coming at you, and as I said, and we were talking about in the earlier video, one of the good things to do is if you are seeing a number over and over again, and you have in your mind equated that number means something, it could be like, my number is 66. I don't know what it is, but it's my thing, and I see it in my relationship with God, and it happens when maybe I'm having some fleeting prayer of something that causes me some concern, and so I say something, and I look up, and it's on a license plate or a phone number or the temperature in the car, and it's sort of like a period at the end of the sentence. It's like a confirmation, and that's how that is for me. And then I started to understand the importance of Strong's Concordance, and the reason I bring that up is you need to allow latitude for those things because God does try to communicate with you. And there's ways that he's trying to see. He's not a prankster, but he has a sense of humor. For crying out loud, look at puppies. It's like he commands us to be joyful in our life. And so even in this time and this stress where we're all fighting for money and where our food is going to come from, and gas and cell phones, it is a challenge that we all face, but he does always provide the way out. And it may not be exactly what you're looking for. It may not be a weekend stay at the Ritz, but he does always bless you with what you need. And so my thing about that and numbers and the whole gematria thing, gematria will tell you what the number is you need to look up. So if there's a word that you keep hearing, you hear, periscope, which periscopes can see the hull of a ship meet the water 40 miles away, which is impossible on a globe, just saying, but history, anyway. Just throw that in there. So if you start looking at certain words that you see in a day, like periscope, it just comes up. You overhear it in the coffee line, and then, it's a commercial on your YouTube or whatever. And look it up. Look at the gematria. Look what the number is. And try to take a snapshot of whatever your thought was when you hear that word. It tends to repeat itself. And this is how God kind of starts to see if you're paying attention, because he wants you to know just how closely, once you start to understand how real he is. And the thought that went into something like, imagine constructing the sun. They just told you that thing was dropped there and it rips away the glory of what it is. That thing is incredible. It moves slower in the winter, or slower in the summer, faster in the winter. It's an incredible machine. It goes, north and south, moves up and down, follows schedules, routes, times, is always on time, never needs cleaning. If you have been in construction at all, you have a lot of appreciation for that kind of electrical work. And so when you look at the care that went into this beautiful place that we're at, that's what it's all about. All this measuring, everything else just confirms that you're that special. You're made in his image. A head, arms, legs, a torso. You're made in, we are in his image. We're that important. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that there is just one of these, and there's just one of you on this That's what they don't want you to know. And these shills come in and they want you to get lost in all these rabbit holes and on YouTube and go outside and just look. It's flat. It's called the horizon because it's a horizontal line. And not enough decades and centuries have gone on for them to erase horizon from our vernacular. That's what they do. They just wait around for thousands of years to wipe things out and delete them. That's how they operate because they've been around that long. So you got to catch up really, really fast because you've only got 70, 80 years. And if that. So this video is long enough. I've been saying go outside, and I'm ready to go outside. Sun's about to go down, and I do really very much appreciate everybody stopping by and your honest and sincere questions. I'll go back through the chat with my lovely wife Zuby, our moderator. And yeah, we'll see if this was a good thing. Maybe we'll do more in the future, and just kind of see how it goes from there. So hope everybody has a good night. Take care.